Guys, there are spoilers for this film in this review, so if you don't want to end up adrift in an ocean of blood, go out watch the film and come back. You have been warned.
Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time.
Hey guys, and welcome back to episode Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD, and this week we watched Iron Lung, directed by Markiplier, his feature-length directorial debut. I believe he wrote it as well. This film is based on the video game of the same name, and it is a horror, one-set horror film. And if you guys know me, I love one-set horror, like one-set movies in general, and I just thought this film was really enjoyable and just a really good time. But before I go on a whole tangent, why I like this film, I'll tell you why I like this film and more. Back at the house.
Can we just agree this is important? Food, air, we need this, not just the COI, all of us. We need this.
There aren't enough of us left to be throwing lives away, but there is too much at stake not to take calculated risks. Ian doesn't understand that. You don't understand that.
I just want to live. Is that so wrong?
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD, and this week we watched Iron Lung, a new science fiction cosmic horror film. There's a bit of cosmic horror in there. Based on the 2022 video game of the same name by David Szymanski. This film was written, directed, executive produced, and starring Markiplier, or Mark Fishbach, I believe is how you say his name. And obviously, as I've just described to you, he did everything. Maybe aside from, like, the editing, you know, but he did a lot of stuff. Okay, so I know this is weird, but I just looked it up, and you know how I said, oh, he did everything, maybe except the editing. He did also do the editing, so he did fucking literally everything for this movie, which is kind of an old school way of doing it, like an old school, like, low budget way of doing it, you know, where, like, there's, like, a director way back in the day, and he's like, I have the budget of 2 pennies and a stick of bubble gum in my back pocket. I'm gonna write it, I'm gonna direct it, I'm gonna edit it, I'm gonna star in it, I'm gonna produce it, right? Like, I'm gonna do fucking everything in this movie, because I don't need to pay anybody else except me, right? For all the important shit, right? That's such an old-fashioned, like, old-fashioned low-budget way of doing it. I like doing that. I love that. And also, it's obviously easier if it's everything, because, again, you don't need to pay that many people. It's also, but it's a lot of work, and I can appreciate the extra amount of work that he had to do to make this movie, and I think it really shows, because obviously the film is not perfect, and I don't think this would be a film necessarily for everyone. Obviously, I think this film, kind of like the game, it's kind of an acquired taste, right? Because it's a one-set movie, and if you know me, I love one-set movies. Right, like movies like Cube, right? I fucking love Cube. That's a one-set movie. And this movie's not like Cube in that sense. The only similarity is that it is a one-set movie. And the reason I enjoy those kinds of movies, like one-set movies, is because you can really be a lot more personable with the characters, and the story is usually, like, more tightly knit. Right, it's more usually close to the chest, I guess is a good way to do it. Because non-one-set movies, while I'm not criticizing them, obviously there can be a lot of storytelling in just the sets alone, and the different set pieces, and the different dynamic stuff that's going on in the other different places that they go. But in a one-set movie, they can literally only depend on the writing and the setting and so on. I think the movie works really well within, since it's such a low-budget movie, within its limitations. I think it does really well with that, right? And I think, obviously, the set is incredible, right? The Iron Lung itself, the titular Iron Lung, is great. It's this giant, like, hunk of junk, like, piece of shit but it clearly looks like it was very expensive to make. And I think I remember seeing like a behind the scenes of how they did it, and it was literally just this giant, basically like metal thing, like metal room on like this. It was like a moving, I guess, treadmill kind of, to like, so when the submarine was shaking around, they would toss them around. But I also liked all the little bits and bobs. I liked how, like, in the game, I watched the, like, Let's Plays for the game when the game was, like, first getting big, being a big indie game, like, a couple years ago. And they did pretty much everything down to a T, right? Like, the little screens, the little number indicators, the little map that you follow to go to each marker point to try to find points of interest to take pictures of, the little picture screen. Like, their locations are perfect. In the game, it's ironically more claustrophobic in the game than it is in the movie, but obviously in the game, you don't actually need to put a real person in there. It's just a game. But in a live-action movie, you actually have to put a real person in there, so they had to make it a little bigger. But I think one thing, talking about claustrophobic, one thing I did like is how most of the shots were very, like, close to Mark. They were very close to him, or they were very, like, close to other objects. There was no, like, wide shots at all, because, well, one, you couldn't really get a wide shot in this claustrophobic little tube, right? There wasn't much wide shots you could get, but they didn't try to. There wasn't, like a shot where you were very far away from anything. Like, there was always something really close to the camera, whether it was his hand, whether it was the map, whether it was his pen, or whatever. It always felt like you were kind of trapped within the Iron Lung with him, which you kind of are. I think there's only, like, 1 or 2 shots in the entire film that aren't in the Iron Lung itself, right? Maybe, like, 4. But those are either, like, flashback scenes, or they're at the very end, right? The Iron Lung is where you are going to be spending 95% of the movie, right? Which, I mean, it's a movie called Iron Lung. You'd expect the movie to take place mostly in the Iron Lung. Which I think is what this movie does well. I think you can tell the guy who made this movie actually liked the game that it was based on, right? And I know that sounds crazy, but you would be very remiss to know, like, most directors who make video game movies probably don't even play video games, right? And that sounds crazy, but it's not. It's true, right? So I think I can just appreciate a video game movie made by a guy who literally bases his entire career off of playing video games. And you can tell, because it's an accurate adaptation of the game. It's about the game. It takes the lore from the game, and it builds off of that to make a story that is simple, understandable, and engaging enough to where you're like, oh, I want to see this guy get out. Even though there's no way he's going to get out. Like, let's be realistic here. It's fucking impossible. Like, there was no way he was getting out from the get-go. It was a suicide mission. They were literally sending him down there to get executed, basically. He was sent down there to be expendable. Why do you think they put him in that giant fucking piece of shit? Because they basically wanted him to die. They don't say that, but that's what happens. Or that's what they wanted to happen. But I think, I don't know. I can just appreciate this movie. Because I think also we don't get enough video game movies based on, like, obscure video games like this, right? We always get the ones on, like, obviously for the popular ones for big studios, but I don't know, maybe sometimes we do need to just get, like, random movies about, like, small indie horror games. Why not? I mean, horror games are probably the best games to make into movies, right? They usually have the best lore and the best plot and the most interesting premise that you could realistically make into a movie, right? So that's why a lot of video game adaptations are of horror movies, or of horror games, right? Because it just works. Even though usually it doesn't, because the directors never play the games. But either way, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. I don't know. I just think that I just enjoyed and appreciated that aspect of the film. But I think another appreciation I can have is, obviously, I've been going on and on about Markiplier's involvement, but I kind of have to because he is involved in so much. And I haven't really mentioned his acting so far. And, you know, for a guy like Markiplier, obviously I'm aware that he did a couple, like, YouTube interactive, like, exclusive, like, short films, I believe. I think they were called, like, A Heist of Markiplier and Space of Markiplier, like, a couple of years ago. I know he acted in those, and he has some acting experience, but he'd never, like, acted in a feature-length film before as the main character. You know, that's a lot of weight to put onto somebody, to solely have to be the one to carry the movie acting-wise. Like, he's the only person you see throughout 99% of the movie. Like, his face. He's the only one. So he has to carry the movie, and I think, as the main character, he does a pretty good job for somebody who has not as much acting experience as a usual lead actor would in a horror movie. You know, and I think, he did a really good job. I think I really enjoyed his performance. I really liked how his character he went through a bit of an arc, you know, because he was desperate to survive, right? And they kind of established that there was an accident. They never really elaborate what happened. So, like, the reason he was a convict and he was down there in the first place is because he was convicted for blowing up this station that killed 72 people, which gave him the name Simon the Butcher, right? And basically, anybody who had heard of him, it basically demonized him in the eyes of whoever was, like, there to see him, Simon, right? But he says that he didn't do it, right? Basically, he said he didn't want it to happen. Can we trust his word? We're not sure. Is he just bullshitting? Unsure, because they never really truly elaborate as to what really went down. They show a flashback of what could have went down, or maybe it was just a hallucination, and it was just misconstruing what actually happened. We never actually see, which I prefer. Obviously, it leaves it up to interpretation. Did he do it? Did he not do it? We don't know. Clearly it hangs on his mind, though. Like, clearly it bothers him, whether he did it or not. It didn't. It clearly hangs on his conscience. And it kind of hinges, like, that kind of hinges on his character arc, right? Because he goes through the whole movie, he's basically saying, he literally says in the movie, he will do whatever it takes to survive, right? He's a survivor, right? He wants to get back home, no matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice, he wants to get back alive. But then, at the end of the movie, he eventually, downloads something from a fallen ship that had been, like, testing things that could save humanity, apparently. And when he tells, like, the people up at, like, the station this, like, the captain goes crazy, and she's like, I will go down there to get you, but, like, in this time frame, right? And she seems very, like, very steadfast. She is very determined to get whatever was in that file to the station. So he gets it, and then he finds her, and eventually she says that she can't bring him with her, right? And that he just can't go with her, but it's bigger than him, right? Like, this is bigger than her, it's bigger than him, it's about the entire human race, essentially, right? And at first he denies it, right? At first he's in denial because he did all this to get out, and when she says he can't, she basically lied to him, right? And said that she could get him out when she couldn't, right? Just to get the black box. Which then she was a little too determined, because then it gets her killed, right? But he then goes through that realization where it is bigger than him, and he kind of sacrifices himself for the greater good at the very end. And it shows that the package that he needed to deliver to her, I mean, he can't deliver to her anymore because she died, but it floats up the ocean because it's in a life jacket. He like attached it to a life jacket with a light on it, and it floats up after his ship is destroyed by a giant, weird, like mind-reading blood monster alien. I don't know. It's confusing. I think it's supposed to be confusing. And a light, I think like a spotlight shines on it. So, I mean, what else would be shining on that? That weak-ass light wasn't shining on it. So maybe that implies that the crew had found it, right? The crew at the station had found it. And maybe that's the hope for humanity. Maybe there is hope for humanity yet. Because that's kind of like a recurring theme in the movie. It's like hope and then killing it. Hope and then killing it. Hope and then killing it. Right? There's a lot of ups and downs. And that ending is kind of like is this the last hope for humanity? Can it truly be saved? And I guess that's up for the audience to decide. Is the information really that vital to the survival of the human race? Who knows? But I do like that ending. I do like how it is a bit ambiguous. I do like the weird, like, eldritch, like, being weird blood sea monster stuff. Personally, this might be just a little bit of a nitpick, but I kind of think they should have obviously they really leaned into the weird eldritch being stuff, like it was like reading his mind and like talking to him in like a weird voice, and it like could clearly go through his thoughts and clearly knew what he was thinking, so it's not like it clearly had some kind of connection to him, and it had like roots growing into his ship, and it was like kind of infecting him, kind of like with a weird, I don't even know, like he was like really fucked up by the end of the movie. Like he looked like kind of body horror-ish, kind of, with the way how fucked up he was at the end of the movie. And they don't, obviously, I'm kind of glad they never really explain like what the monster is or why it's doing anything it's doing, right? Because it's trying to stop him from bringing that information to the humans. I think that's what it was trying to do, right? For whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe its goals are beyond our understanding. Probably. I mean, it seemed quite intelligent for just a sea creature. It was very odd, but in a good way. Probably just rambling on too much here, but I enjoyed that aspect of it. But I've been going off too much already. Well, would I recommend this film? Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a fan of Markiplier's videos, if you're a fan of his previous works, like his other short films that he's made, I feel like you will get a kick out of this movie. Of course, if you're a fan of the game, I think there's a lot to get out of this, because from what I've seen, from what I remember watching back then when the game was first big, this is quite fucking accurate to the game. So if you're a fan of the game, I think you'll get a real kick out of this movie. And if you're just a fan of like cosmic horror, I think there's a lot of enjoyment to be had with this as well. And with that being said, what would I rate this film? I think I would rate this film a 7.5 out of 10. And yeah, I think it's so already said. Thank you so much. Peace. So guys, I hope you all like this video. Share with friends, subscribe, turn those notifications on. Comment down below on how much you liked it. But you guys know how it goes. I didn't really mean to say that. What I really meant to say was if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe, dislike, attention, hate me in the comments. And I've been Tim HD, off to recover a sample. So I was watching this movie, right? And the opening credits were playing over Markiplier, because he also stars in the movie as the main character. I mean, since it's so low budget, he's like, why hire a bunch of actors when you can just you could do the starring role yourself. He was pretty good too, but it said Troy Baker, and I'm like, fucking Troy Baker. If you don't know who that is, he's in fucking everything. Like video game wise, that dude is in everything. He was in The Last of Us. He was in Far Cry 4. He's like a lot of stuff. I'm not going to mention everything, but he's in a lot of shit. And it's like, of course Troy Baker is in this. I just thought that was fun. He's not in it for very long. It's just his voice. You can like see him, like a very blurry version of himself in the background in one shot, but that's basically it.